4.7 transformations of polynomial functions. So this we've gone through before with quadratics, and we will know which way they translate. So you can have a horizontal, that's adding or subtracting to your x, vertical, adding something to your f of x, reflection. So reflection is if it's multiplying -1 times x, it's over the y-axis, and negative f of x is over the x-axis, horizontal stretch to shrink. This right here is the tough one because we have to remember that it has an opposite indicator on what's happening inside the parentheses. You multiply your x by 2, it's going to shrink horizontally by 1/2, or it's going to stretch horizontally by 2. This horizontal stretch means that it's going to get narrower toward the horizontal axis. Vertical stretch shrink, that's just like the numbers that you see. All right, so what kind of problems can you have? Describe these two functions. So g of x, I'm going to go to the left 5 units, and I'm going to go up 2. So that means that 0, 0 point is now going to be -5, 2. And if you can show me something like this, that would indicate what that particular graph is going to shift to. Also, we have x to the 4th. This is going to go to the right 3 units and down 1 unit. So 0, 0 is now going to be at 3, -1. Notice how I have points that are shown with numbers. This is my original, and this would be my shifted one. Now, you can also have other types of problems like this, and they can get a little bit tricky. So there are a couple things happening here. This is, okay, so that means it's going to reflect over the x-axis, and it's going to be a vertical shrink by 1/4 factor. Similarly here, this tells you that it's going to have a horizontal, and that means it's going to be a shrink by 1/2. And we know it's going to go down 3 units, just indicating what those represent. You can also do things with rules. And so if it's telling you what the rule is, basically you're doing a substitution of -x in for x. So that means all of your x's become -x. So I'm just going to put in -x for my x's and then go ahead and expand. And so my g of x would equal this. Same thing on this one. I would say it's just going to be 3 times my f of x, which is written up above, and then you just distribute through. Now, let's look at this one, and it talks about there's a g of x doing things from my f of x. So the whole idea is what happens to your g of x? Well, the first thing it says is it's a vertical stretch by a factor of 2. So I can say I want to take 2 times my f of x, followed by a translation 3 up. So really, it's going to be 2 times f of x, followed by a translation of 3 up. This is what I want to do to my f of x, which means that the g of x is equal to 2 times this plus 3, which simplified is going to be 2x to the fourth minus 4x squared plus 3. Oftentimes, this is helpful in understanding what you have to do to the function in order to write these out. But be careful on these. Slow down, really take your time. Remember, if it's a horizontal shrink or stretch by a factor, you're doing something to the x, but you're also having a number that's the reciprocal of the 2. Again, that's if it was a horizontal stretch or shrink. So be careful with those types of problems.